Thank you all. Thank you all for joining the webinar. This is a series of webinars, by CyRAACS on compliance, being audit ready, to basically simplify the overall concept of managing risk around information security. I'm Venkat. I head the practice for audit and consulting in CyRAACS. I've been with CyRAACS for 6+ years, been in the industry from 2010, predominantly working on the BFSI sector, on the regulations, in the audit and consulting. Also, ISO, PCI, FISMA, NASD is something that I take care. I have Bharat with me. Bharat, do you want to quickly
Hi
introduce?
everyone, this is Bharat Srinivasaragan. I head product management at CyRAACS. I've been here for about 8 years now, and I've done many roles working on audits, consulting, and right now I do product management for a series of products that we're building to solve cybersecurity problems for our clients. Today's topic is a very important topic that we wanted to address as we do the series on, how do we simplify cybersecurity programs and make it effective. It's focused on, how do you move from an audit anxiety mode to an assurance mode and skip the reactive cycles to being proactively ready, right? So that's the topic we wanted to cover, and what was the reason for this? So some time back, I was talking to a founder of a fintech, a very successful fintech company, doing well, and onboarded with a lot of clients, large clients in the BFSI space. And the founder was sharing with me that they are facing a lot of audits, and they have a lean and mean team, and they are spending a lot of time trying to prepare for audits. So this is right from the time that they are getting onboarded as partners, and then ongoing periodic cycles of audits by the clients, and then regulatory audits, and then their information security standards related audits. So he was sharing that from trying to get together the data for the audits, answering questionnaires, placing the data for the auditors to review, actually dealing with the audits, and then the follow-up answers and clarifications they have to give. He says essentially people are dropping what their core work is, and having to just focus on audits and making sure it isn't, because finally at the end of the day, the decision on onboarding as a partner has a lot to do with how the audits are going. And he was sharing this frustration with me to say that these audits are actually consuming a lot of time. And when I was speaking to a CISO of a fairly large organization, you would imagine that having a larger organization and a larger team, they would not be facing this challenge. But then because things are decentralized there, they are now having to focus and run after different teams to get the data, right? So essentially everybody is just afraid of the audit word. It's like it's something that's like a stigma that the moment you mention an audit, there is a very weary reaction that comes in. And we looked at industry surveys, and it says a lot of mid-sized organizations are spending 3 to 4 weeks spending, getting ready for audit, and compliance teams are weary and just facing this audit fatigue all the time, right? So this is what discussions with people in the industry and looking at the problems what they are facing. It is what we discovered as we are doing this. And Venkat, as somebody who's been an auditor, doing so many audits, regulatory audits or third party audits, and also having faced audits, right? Where do you see this problem originating, and what sense can organizations make to actually break from this?
Okay, thanks, Bharat. I think you hit the right point. This is a common challenge, or rather, it's the audit fatigue is something that we see day in and day out as we
Yeah.
audit organizations. Before going to where it stems from, I'll just tell you as to what is driving the audits in the for an organization, right?
Yeah.
And even before that, I just wanted to say that I usually say information security in its very simple definition is managing risk to CIA or managing risk to the security.
Yeah, simple.
It's as simple as that. And you day in and day out, the role of a CISO on the security team is to manage these risks. And along with that comes various requirements, right? One, requirements come from regulators. Second, you have set a standard for yourself in terms of ISO PCI based on the industry. And not just that, as businesses are growing very, very fast today, the requirements of compliance in security is also coming from potentially your partners, in a merger and acquisition, somebody who you are going to be take over or something, and
Yeah.
also potentially your clients, right? Your clients a lot of time dictate what all they want, right?
Yeah.
What kind of security requirements they want, and also, and like the client contacts and some industry best practices that you want to take, certain
Correct.
certain requirements, advisories that keeps coming on, right? Now, as I see in 2019 or 4 5 years back, the frameworks was very very less, some just 3 4 major frameworks across many
Correct.
regulations.
Correct.
Now I see that at least there are 8 plus frameworks for the same company that they have to go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just that, each every year, we see that at least 10 to 15% of annualized growth on more compliance requirements coming.
Annualized growth. I like that
Correct.
term.
Yes, yes, yeah. That's what I see, right?
Yeah.
And what is driving these things? Why the regulators or the partners, potentially your investors? Why are they asking that you have to be secure? Are you compliant, compliant, compliant? And I want to make sure myself that whether you're compliant,
Yeah.
right? Now, let's take digital economy of the country. We have seen a 10x growth in UPI alone, or not just that, right from payments, UPI, credit card, debit cards, NPCI payments, your Aadhaar related payments have gone big. And your eKYC today is faster through Aadhaar.
Yeah.
Again, right?
Yeah.
Today, people can open an account in a span of minutes,
Mhm.
and their loan is disbursed in a span of hours to minutes.
Yeah.
More than that, I would say that once someone opens an account, a loan is already available for them to take it.
Yes.
It's as
It's as simple as that.
it's as
Yeah.
simple as that, right? All this, customer data availability of the system is continuously driving more and more compliance requirements, right? Like you said, exactly, as we go
Mhm.
and audit,
Mhm.
right? We audit various banks, various insurance companies and everything,
Mhm.
and not just one audit in a year. We audit them multiple times in a year,
Correct.
right? And like you exactly put, for each time when we ask something to them, they
Mhm.
start fresh, right? We would have done an audit 2 3 months back,
Yeah.
right? They start fresh, as
Mhm.
if we are asking them, we are meeting them for the first time sometimes, and the compliance team or the team that is collecting the artifacts and data
Mhm.
starts from fresh, including, let's say, a simple backup policy which is potentially valid for the next 9 months. They again go back to the CISO and ask, right? So what I see is that, how to shift,
Mhm.
this kind of an audit fatigue. What organization should do is that they need to have some form of all the controls somewhere listed and
Mhm.
look at mapping each and
Mhm.
every requirement,
Mhm.
right? When I say this, one interesting thing that I can tell you is, wherever I've seen the information security requirements across standards and regulations
Yeah. Yeah.
is 70% common, even when new regulations or advisories come, right?
Agreed.
There is a 25 30% delta.
Yeah.
A very small and a very specific example, if I have to take, in terms of a privilege access or a key access
Mhm.
management, right? In ISO, privilege access has to be managed in one, which means that access to your servers, your critical servers, databases has to be managed. The
Mhm.
same requirement is available in PCI, right? Manage access with proper MFA and things like that, for the card data
Card
environment.
data environment.
The
Yeah.
same control is again there in RBI, right?
Yeah.
Now, if it's a banking environment or a banking organization, the control environment is same.
Mhm.
These three controls are same, but for these three audits, they collect the data again and again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the way is that I collect these data, I have this control, I map it to somewhere, right? I map all these requirements in a single control framework, and say I've already collected this data and I have already have the compliance, or rather I have proved my compliance internally, and say that I can be audit
So
ready.
essentially, you're saying some amount of the audit fatigue is stemming from not being prepped in the right way rather than not being prepped enough.
Correct. It's not simplified,
That makes
and
sense.
people think it's very complex, right?
Yeah.
My CEO always tells me most complex challenges have the simplest solutions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I always feel that there is a very simple solution to this,
Mhm.
right? And once you set the base, how I'm going to approach this, how I'm going to target this, then it's all about continuous compliance and taking from there. right?
Agreed. Agreed.
Now I know you have been working, and you've been specifically working on some form of a, unified, or I can say a single control list that can cater to multiple things, and this is exactly what you've been,
Yeah.
telling. So, if you can just give us a little more
So
thoughts around
I'll
it.
take off from the theme of what you said, that do the right prep instead of doing a lot of prep, right? So one of the ways is you have a single control. So there's a lot of overlap, like you established with the access, access related controls on MFA, right? Whether it is PCI or ISO or RBI TGRC. So essentially, what it means is you have 7 descriptions of the control rather than 7 different controls, right? So simplest matter of how we do this is list all your compliance requirements, identify the controls, analyze the common patterns and the common things around these controls, mark out the delta, like you said, to say these are the additional requirements, these are the different requirements, and create one single unified framework around this, right? And then do the mapping. Okay, this goes to ISO control number so and so, this go to ISO RBI TGRC control number 14.1 and whatever, right? And then you operationalize it, because essentially the first line when you consider an organization, which is your IT, HR, physical security, the guy sitting there is caring about delivering the artifact that is required. So whether he gives the backup logs for ISO or PCI, he just needs to know what he needs to give, rather than worrying about what does that control say. If it is broken down into actionables for him, it becomes easier for him to do it. So with one artifact, like you said, if it's a backup policy, once I have that and it has all the requirements of these 3 standards done, the policy stays as is. You don't have to go ask thrice. Even the backup records, if it knows what's the frequency and what's the risk it is mitigating, the same record stands for all 3 audits. You don't have to keep doing it again and again. But how do you simplify this, right? The framework seems very simple. So you have to adopt a unified framework. So you can have your practitioners, your GRC practitioners sit and build this for you for 3 months, or because that's roughly what I think it will take.
With
Or
the
you
right
can
people.
adopt with
With
the
the
right
right
people,
people,
yes.
right? Yeah.
Or you might adopt something like a secure control framework, a unified control compliance framework, or CAIQ, right? All of these have commonalities, and they speak about how the mapping is across controls. The only caveat here again is talking the same theme of the right purpose. Sometimes these abstractions are not enough to bring out the differences for the controls, and that is something that companies need to account for. So going back to the same example, ISO says MFA for critical systems, RBI says for critical activities, as well as privileged access, right? PCI says for CD environments, MFA is required. So how does this apply to each of your environment is the customization that companies will have to do. This is not available publicly in the market. Now, with everything that is happening with AI and LLMs, organizations can take advantage of it to do it. But again, it requires the right practitioner to be available there. I'm sure in about 6 to 12 months, regulators and various tech companies are going to solve this problem innovatively. We are working on something like this, right? But all of this again requires one common base, which is you need to have your controls written for all the applicable standards in one place. You need to have all of this ready to be consumed by a system to give you the right output. And that is why your GRC platforms come into play, right? So we have Compass, which is our GRC platform, wherein we have built this unified compliance framework. But we don't stay at the abstract layer. We actually customize and configure it to the environment of the client to say what applies there. So if it's a card holder data environment, what is the specific thing that needs to happen there? If it's AWS, what needs to happen there, right? Whether it is in terms of cloud security controls, access controls, right? Cloud monitoring, logging, all of this has to be specific to your environment. And that is what a GRC platform and applying that thought process brings you, right? So Compass today is solving this problem for us and for our clients, and it is helping them do this. So we have built a very unique compliance framework library that we have built, which is supporting about 40 standards, has about 1,000 controls today, right? And again, all of this is configured and applied specifically to the client environment. And it becomes a simple platform for you to then action it for your users. So, going back to the same example, the network guy just needs to know what record he needs to give. The backup guy just needs to know what record he needs to give. for the control because it's already built and mapped to all the applicable standards and regulations. And that is what a platform like Compass can simplify. And when we bring in the AI features in it, it will help make you ready for future regulations that come. It can automatically identify the delta, as Venkat spoke about, to say a new regulation comes in. Okay, what is the additional new requirement I need to do, right? How do I operationalize it? And that's the problem that we are right now working on, and in about 3 to 6 months you will hear some exciting news on that. But Compass today is readily solving this problem for you. It needs our involvement today, but as AI systems and AI features are available, this will become even more easier for companies to adopt.
Perfect. I'll maybe add one point to that. RBI in 2024 also, recommended and kind of mandated that organizations, specifically banking organizations, should have a workflow, compliance workflow tool that is centrally managed, and more importantly, is providing continuous real-time compliance, information to the management, right? So this is very important, and someone who understands, I think, you've understood, I'm able to understand here, right? Banks and organizations can make their compliance simplified audit, right? Over a period of time, audit data is always available, right? A compliance to the management is as good as my audit data being provided to them, right? On top of it, I'm also hearing that the Daksh portal from the regulator again is going to have direct connectivity in terms of API to pull compliance related data, some records, so that the regulator is going to be more on a real time update on the level of compliance.
So the regulator wants you to break from reactive cycles to proactive cycles, right? So that's the posture that the industry is adopting. So RBI is very clear to say, let the economy grow, let the digital economy grow, but we need the guardrails around it. And that's how they are saying that, our Daksh portal will automatically fetch data from your compliance systems to do it, which means the compliance system is right now a basic need. It's no longer something that, you can manage with Excel sheets and spreadsheets and then different SharePoint folders, right? With GPTs being available, you again need to have some systems which can consume it, which means a compliance platform to manage all your regulatory and compliance needs is a no-brainer. It's a starting step to actually build and maintain compliance.
I agree. When you use the term GPT, today GPT means an AI, right? Yeah. I am very, very sure the regulators, right, are going to come up with their own GPTs to pull data, to check the compliance, and potentially automate audit as much possible, right? So that's
so with that, what happens is if you have system available and the controls are broken down into actions, you are not doing nothing but manage your compliance on a day-to-day basis. So you can be audit ready at any point in time. You can have daily audits internally for your organizations to say, if these are the 15 controls which are due today, how have I done against all of this? Are there any failures there that I need to address, which I take corrective action, and then my posture is again maintained. So it's not about getting ready for when an auditor is coming to you for various reasons. You are audit ready at any point in time, and that's what these GRC platforms are meant to do, and that's what Compass today is solving the problem. And with new features coming in, you will be ready for new regulations very easily, and that can be a seamless journey for you.
Perfect. Right. Nice.
So
yeah, I think at a very high level snapshot on how Compass works, right? Setup is very simple. It's just a quick instance that we have to set up for you guys, right? And customize your compliance program. I think this is where things have to get simplified, and this is where practitioners, experienced practitioners who have understood the audit anxiety problem or the audit fatigue problem, they really understand, and we have fully understood this, challenge, and setting up based on the control environment that you need, and based on the actual risk and the threats that are facing you, right? We have to tell you how often you have to do what, right? Yeah. That is more important. And second, the library of controls is already mapped to almost maybe 35, 40 now.
40 standards.
40 standards already, including some RBI standards, SEBI, other international standards, including ISO, PCI, right? It's already mapped. And then once we set this up, right, people have to, given the task of, the regular compliance in terms of weekly, sometimes monthly, quarterly, they start uploading the, compliance data. Somebody checks it potentially from the CISO team, can be from the audit team also, and then this becomes a process of continual compliance program.
Yeah.
Over a period of time, there will be dashboards, issues, risks that are continuously managed. But what's more important is the top management gets an assurance that my compliance is so much and so much, right? These are all the action items that I have to do. Aids in basically better decision making and faster decision
Yeah.
making, which is primarily important. And today, every decision making cannot go back to an Excel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think that simplified, I think beautifully put to say how this can be, quickly just streamlined and set up. So I think we are at a logical point. We did want to cover how this organizations can shift. So right now, I think let's hear from the audience if they
some
have any questions.
questions. Yeah, I'll read out.
Yeah.
Mike has asked, how frequently should controls and evidence be reviewed internally before an audit?
So, I mean, if you're going by traditional model, you would say that, what, at least do it before your audit. But the way, from what you could gather, right, you want to move from a reactive to proactive. Once you have a compliance system in place, this should be as simple as, doing it every day. If there are controls that are due for you to, review today, which is like a simple example, a weekly backup control, review it and that day, and you know that your backup is working, right? Your audit prep, if you specifically want to do, look at the sampling period, pull it out, make sure everything is accounted for. If you've done it continuous compliance wise, you will not have any issues. You will be ready at any point in time.
Yeah, just to add to that, you define your frequency of a control based on your risk, right?
Yeah.
What is the risk perception? What is the risk to the control? How often you want the control to be tested by someone, right? And then make sure that, let's say if it's monthly, you make sure that somebody does this monthly and then take that data
Yeah.
out, right? Next question is, in the age of AI and hyper automation, isn't audit itself undergoing a change? How is that landscape changing?
Yeah, so audit is changing. So with AI, everything is undergoing this change to say that, what, how quickly can we do something? What are the early warning systems that we can have in place? And like Venkat mentioned, RBI itself is looking at, integrating Dutch with compliance management systems of the regulated entities. So you can use automation to, actually fetch data real time, understand what are the weaknesses in the system, find corrective actions, and really make sure that these weaknesses are fixed, and your recurring problems are fixed. So you can use AI to find out these patterns and understand where the root causes and actually get away from it. So AI can mean a lot of things, but how you apply it to your system and how you are able to automate and fetch data real time can actually make sure that you are not losing any sleep over audits, as well as your compliance posture. You will discover vulnerabilities and weaknesses in the system much faster.
Yeah, Sunil, maybe AI could also automate some form of the auditor's work in reviewing an artifact or data, right? Today, AI is in a position to say that if you upload something, it tells you whether ABC is compliant within that. A policy can be reviewed with an AI, right? And which is what we are already working on in terms of policy review, automated data review. Of course, right, in its learning curve, we have to be very careful of the bias and the kind of hallucinations. But yes, it will definitely have enormous impact in the future. Okay, what are the common challenges mid-sized organizations face in audit readiness?
I'll take it.
I'll take it up. Okay, see, the the small and mid-size, and specifically the mid-size organizations are the one, from a small to mid, they have grown very fast, right? Their business has grown fast, and they have potentially, not prioritized security along the way. Now, as a mid-size organization, compliance requirements, security related compliance requirements have literally piled up on them, and they do the same, mistake, or like what we spoke, they do the same thing of going and refreshing, or getting ready for an audit again and again.
Yeah.
And more importantly, for a mid-sized organization which is not regulated but servicing to a regulated entity, they are even more under pressure, because I am servicing it to 15 banks, but all 15 banks are asking me the same questions every month, right? Potentially in an overlapping May. And I start from fresh again. Sometimes my team misses it, even though if it's in a next folder, I really miss it, and but I go back, right? And this is what we want to kind of say, that get out of this fatigued cycle and have a unified control. You understand what the clients are asking, map it, and keep it always ready. Potentially, you should be in a position to give a read-only access to your compliance system in such a way they understand what all you have. it's been mapped to their requirements, or it's been mapped to ISO and other standards, so that they can see that over a period of time with snapshots to multiple things, that the organization has been compliant to this for a long period of cycle, more than maybe 6 to 12 months. So
Yeah.
this kind of solves the challenge, but this challenge is for the mid-sized entities. They day in and day out face a lot of audits.
How do you manage compliance for vendors and third parties? Okay, so Venkat spoke about it. The typical way that a lot of companies take it up is, do audits periodically, rigorously, multiple audits, and so on and so forth, right? But a simpler way to do is look at the services being provided, look at the risk that is there. This could be because of data that they have access to, systems that they have access to. Uh, Whether do you have any other, backup vendors or contingent vendors who can, provide services in case of a disruption. So once you know the risk, accordingly, then look at what are the parameters that you want to monitor periodically. Instead of doing a full-fledged audit every month or every year or doing it in various forms, just look at the key parameters that you want as information from them. This could be real-time data, like Venkat mentioned, by integrating into the systems, or they assert or report to you, and then periodically back it up with a proper rigorous audit, to say that what critical systems need to be covered in that. This way you can ensure that what security doesn't become a pain for them, compliance is assured, and the posture is something that's very well known for you. So it doesn't become a pain point for them, but rather it is a way of establishing compliance with you to demonstrate that it's business as usual.
Yeah, Compass also has a third party
Yeah.
risk management module where it's again a plug and play, simple. Just add the vendors. You can have multiple questionnaires, send it to them at various frequencies. Things are little automated in the TPRM assessment space. So yeah, so that's pretty much, I think, Bharat. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Bharat, with a lot of insights on the platform, how to go the platform way,
Yeah.
how should compliance be managed in platform and reduce the audit fatigue, right? Very insightful.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone for joining. It was a very good session. Thanks for all the queries. It made a lot of sense. I hope our responses have helped the larger audience to understand how they can solve this problem. And we will see you again in another series of webinar that we conduct for our cybersecurity program and how do we simplify it. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.